Over the last few years, a bunch of JavaScript technologies have sort of come together and given us a new possible way of deploying and building applications. That way is progressive web applications, or PWAs. Let's mash on that. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. Boy, it has been some time, huh?
It has, since January, I believe.
Nice little 6-month hiatus.
Mm-hmm. But we're back.
Yeah, during which time we've achieved nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I feel silly, Simon. I thought it was PWA, and here all along it's been PWA.
A lot of people are mispronouncing this PWA, but I think the right answer is PWA. I mean, it sounds better. It rolls off the tongue. It's quicker to say. Like, what's the point of using an acronym that it takes a long time to say? Like, the canonical example of this is this triple W you get up here, right? www. Where if you just said "wha," everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, I know what pwabuilder.com or what.builder.com." So I'm gonna start heading a campaign to update our pronunciation of that. I think that we should definitely be focused on PWA.
All right. Well, you keep us posted on that.
Yeah. It's gonna be a thing. You wait and see. All right. So I wanted to talk about these PWAs and the heck are they? So I was saying that there's a bunch of technologies that have come together on this stuff, and it's basically that JavaScript is now decent. And you can build up these sort of standalone applications using it. So traditionally, if you wanted an application that you can install on somebody's phone, or you can run on the desktop, or you can run in the browser, it's a pretty difficult solution, right? Like the best solution has been maybe something like Electron, where you can kind of share the code base between the website and the desktop application. But there's just enough differences that it makes it sort of tricky to do. So there's lots of Electron applications out there. Slack is an Electron application. VS Code is an Electron application. I hear the new version of Skype is an Electron application, which sort of boggles my mind that they managed to do that. But the idea behind these PWAs is that you start off with something that is as simple as a website. So the example that I have here is this Southridge video, courtesy of Microsoft. And you allow it to be enhanced based on the environment in which it's running. So right now this is running just in a simple web browser, but with a few additions here, you can get it to run as a Windows application. So you can actually get it to run in the Windows Store. And once it's running inside of Windows, then you get access to like a whole bunch of other possibilities that you can do. So you can tie into like Windows notifications. You can do things like check if people have quiet hours on. It's not called quiet hours anymore. It's called like concentration mode or something, which I found very confusing when I looked for it the other day. And you can even run native code. So if you have something like you have a C library or a C# library or something like that, you want people to be able to access the functionality within from your application, then if you install it as a PWA, they can get access to that functionality. So this means that it gives you a whole bunch of access to things like high performance video rendering and being able to do complex math that doesn't necessarily work very well in JavaScript because it's not really a language designed for any sort of scientific computing. So the main parts of a PWA are that, or I guess the main things that you needed to convert your application to a PWA, and it's surprisingly simple, is you need a manifest file which contains some information about sort of what your application is and how it should run when it's installed locally. You need a service worker, which is responsible for dealing with the network communication between your application and whatever server you're using. So if you're building a mobile application, of course, you have to keep in mind the disconnected scenario. And even if you're building a desktop application, you have to keep in mind the disconnected scenario, which has traditionally been very difficult to deal with web applications, but this service worker plugs into the pipeline for all web requests and allows you to intercept them and alter them as need be. So it's possible that you can use a local cache of those values, or you can display error messages or warnings or something like that saying, like, here is the data, but it's 16 minutes old. I hope you're not trading stocks based on the freshness of this data. And then the final bit is HTTPS. PWAs need to be served out over HTTPS and installed over HTTPS because they do gain some additional access to people's machines. So it's important that we know that they are from reputable sources. And HTTPS is cheap and simple and easy to do these days. So I don't think there's any excuse to not have it. And of course, if you want to build anything with a PWA, you're going to need to make use of that. So I thought I'd take us through maybe a little bit of this application. So this is just a video sharing website with really nice pictures and then disappointing videos when you get into it. But that's kind of the idea, that we want to convert this application into a progressive web app. Unfortunately, it's pretty simple to do. So there is this handy dandy PWA builder website out there, which is going to help you build out your manifest and your service worker. And then if you were going to publish on the Windows Store, it would give you some access to do that. So I've already gone and put this address in here. I'm just going to hit get started here and let it go out and chug away here. So
the idea is this is an existing website that you've already built.
Right, exactly.
You're wanting to augment it now with these extra bits.
So this one is a little bit of a cheat because it has a few things in it that make becoming a PWA simpler. So you can see that this has gone out and it's detected a lot of really good stuff, mainly around the icons for the website. So you're probably not going to get quite as good of an example as this when you go and do it yourself, but it's still pretty decent what it's managed to extract. We can just try an arbitrary website later. We'll come back to that. So I'm just going to add a description here, a video site, and it uses the magic of DOM manipulation to go off and update this manifest on the side here. So I have the same website running locally here, and I'm going to go and steal this manifest, copy, and throw it into this here. So somewhere there's a manifest in here. There it is, manifest.json. There's already some stuff in there. We'll overwrite that. Ooh, Visual Studio is being installed in the background. Excellent. All right, so this is kind of half the battle here. Doesn't do a whole lot, but we're basically talking about kind of how we want this thing to display. So we give it a theme color, some scope of like what we want to allow it to be able to access, in our case everything, the name, and then some display properties here. So we'll allow full screen and landscape, and then a short name for it, and then of course the URL that we actually started it from. So this is kind of half the battle for getting us to a PWA. So we can hit next step here, and this is the service worker. So this kind of, as I was saying, it intercepts requests, and so there's a bunch of different modes that exist here. If you were going to be building an application using this technology, I feel like this service worker code would actually end up being fairly complicated to deal with the various connected and disconnected scenarios and knowing what to cache. Like cache invalidation is a notoriously tricky problem in computing science, knowing when to reach out for revalidation and those sorts of things. But we will take the cache first network version of this. And I go copy that and chuck it over just in the index HTML in here. There we go. So the first thing that's done here, let's format that. Ooh, why did you not format properly? There we go. Let's take a second. So the first thing we do here is we do some feature detection around service workers. Service workers are supported on every modern browser at the moment. So your Edges, your Chromes, your Firefoxes, supported on all of those. But if somebody happens to visit your website on Internet Explorer 6, heaven forbid, then you would want to be able to check that they actually have support for service workers and kind of fall back if they don't. I guess if they don't, your fallback is just you're not going to get a PWA. All right, and then we're going to go and register off a PWA builder service worker JS file here. So this sort of registering by loading up an entire external JavaScript file should be something that's familiar if you've ever used web workers. It's kind of the same sort of approach. And we check and see if we have it already registered before we go ahead and register it, but we'll go ahead and save this, and then we'll go and grab that service worker code here. So this is a little bit more complicated here. And that drops into right here. So we'll just take a look at a few little bits of this. And basically what I want to look at here is this fetch event listener. So every time that we use the fetch API, which is going off to get more data from the server, then we want to check and see if we can get it from the cache. And if we can, then we'll use that. And if we can't, we're going to go off and ask for it from the server itself. Yeah, so these are just shortcuts for some functions down here. From server just passes it through, from cache goes and tries and get it from cache, and then once we have that data, we're going to go and update the cache with it. So that means that the first time we hit this site, we're going to end up going up to the server for a mandatory cache hit. But hopefully in future, that'll end up in the cache and we can just pull stuff from there. Okay, so I've gone and updated all of this stuff. Now we can go and see how this works. I'm curious because I haven't actually tried this in the Chrome debugging tools. Ooh, that's a fun
So
slide.
that's for any request then that's going to our server that
yeah, so that'll
cache?
be like requests for resources, so images, HTML, JavaScript files, that sort of thing, and also to any API endpoint. But of course you can go in here and intercept this stuff in whatever way you see fit. So you could examine the request here. So you can take a look at the request URL. So if you had something like, hey, anything that ends in /API, we need to actually go out to the server for in most cases, or anything that is a post to an API, then we need to go out and put it there. Another good example would be if you had a series of, say, posts that were going out to update stuff, but your network was down, then you could queue those up. And once you had network connectivity again, then you could kind of replay all of those events and it would update the server.
Cool.
All right, so I haven't tried this in here. Application maybe? Service workers, okay. So there's no service workers running for this one yet. Let's go and refresh the page and see what happens. All right, ooh. Okay, few little complaints. So I think part of this is that I just have the wrong MIME type being sent out for that service worker stuff, because I just have this running on like a Python HTTP server. But in theory, this has gone and registered the service worker now, so we should be able to disconnect ourselves from the network and actually try it. So let's see what happens here. Adventure. Oh, it didn't work. That's unfortunate. I don't actually know how to do that. I haven't tried this before. I should have tried it out before demoing it. But yeah, that's the idea, is that this will be online, and once you lose network connectivity, you should still be able to use the application. Maybe I'm being a bit adventurous trying to
like beating up
reload the entire website. Let's see if we can just like navigate with it offline. Okay, there we go. So that did work.
Cool.
And I could go to like different links for stuff that I hadn't visited before. And it's intercepting all of those. So that's basically the idea behind this. So the other things to talk about is that Microsoft is really big on this technology at the moment. I don't know where exactly they see it being placed in their technology stack and what it's going to replace or augment, but they would like people to use this because they're allowing registration of this stuff in the Microsoft Store. And in fact, they're going one step further than that, and they're actually searching the web for people who've created PWAs and converting them into Microsoft Store applications for them. So the Bing crawler goes out. Anything it sees it's a PWA and that it considers to be a high quality PWA based on a number of different criteria, it will automatically register in the store, and then you can go as the owner of that and request ownership of that store PWA and go from there.
Yeah, so I guess it's something we didn't mention is that everything we talked about so far was these are all W3C standards, right? It's not just Microsoft specific technology. This is open web stuff.
Absolutely. So when I say that like you can run it anywhere, if we drop over to can I use, then if we search for service, it's under service workers, let's see. Service workers. Okay, so this is kind of a fundamental part of PWAs. So you can see Edge, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, not supported on Internet Explorer 11, but that's for the best. And then like Opera Mini, I guess. But this was last released in 2015, so I wouldn't expect that to be up to date.
Yeah, this is newer than that, so makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are some other components, like background sync, that apparently don't have full support just yet. I don't know if there's actually like a PWA tag in here. Yeah, so there's some support for this stuff across various platforms, but I think you get away with doing it for the most part at the moment.
Yep. It's pretty neat on some OSs when you go to a PWA. I'm just going to say it wrong. It will actually prompt you. It'll recognize that it's a PWA and prompt you if you want to install the app. And then it installs and appears like an app on your device. With Windows so far, I don't think it does that, but as you said, some of them are automatically being listed in the store as apps. So
I don't remember.
Or you can submit it as an app to the store if you want to.
Yeah, I can actually demo that. Because I have this here. Let me just open this up, sideload. So this is, if you had gone back to this PWA builder here and you'd hit the next step, you can go and download the manifest all kind of summed up as an Apex, and then I can go here and I can just do test install, run that PowerShell.
So Apex is the thing that you would usually submit to the Windows Store if you were submitting like a native app.
Alright, I'll let this thing install itself. This is perfectly safe, by the way, to run PowerShell scripts from the internet. Free to do that. So there we go, it's gone and installed itself here. And momentarily we'll load. There we go, cool, look at that.
Nice.
So that's all nice and resizes and everything like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think one of the most famous ones right now it would be the Twitter app.
Yeah, that is definitely one of them. So once you get it up like this, do I have the debugger installed on this machine? I don't have the Edge standalone debugging tools, but I was going to demonstrate that you can go off and this has some examples of some of the Windows APIs you can go ahead and use. So you can go and like check if people are running a dark theme, or create toast notifications, or toggle compact mode if they lose focus. And these are just some like pretty basic examples of what you can do if you were to go off and work at it. You can do a lot of really cool things with it.
That's cool. I like how far this technology has come along in the last year or so, and I like the direction it's going.
Yeah, I have not been paying any attention whatsoever to this stuff, but it's pretty nifty.
Yeah, last time I had looked at it, it was when it was just the manifest thing. I can't remember what that spec was called, but it was basically just the concept of a manifest that they were trying to standardize. And service worker wasn't really there yet. And it was early days when I was looking at it last time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm excited to go and look at all the sites that I've built and start pulling this stuff in.
Oh, we could try that. We were going to give that a try. ASP.Net.monsters.com. So this is actually served out of HTTPS, so we should, in theory, be able to build an app using it. See how much stuff it manages to pull out. It did pretty well. Look at that. It's got icons and everything.
So must be pulling that from the favicon.
Yeah, it must be. It probably has a few different places. But
cool.
We would probably have to go and put a bunch more icons in there. If you remember the South Ridge video one, and the number of icons that they had. And that's just a typical sort of building mobile applications, is you need icons in every conceivable size.
Yeah.
Seems like it would have been way easier to just be like, okay, your icon needs to be an SVG, done. And then have all of these raster graphics in different sizes. Okay, well, I think that's probably everything that we wanted to talk about, POI related.
Oh, that was great. Thanks, Simon.
Not at all, and don't you worry, viewers, we're back in action. Well, we think we're back in action. We'll see if we manage to get 2 videos in a row. We'll see everybody next time.
Bye.